Message sync. You said, tip-took. Message 6. ChatGPT said, my sister sold my laptop for $500. She said it like she had just found money in a jacket pocket. Casual, proud, even. We were sitting around my parents' dining table, the same one we had used every Sunday for years. Pot roast in the center, too many side dishes, too many opinions, not enough boundaries. 500, Brianna repeated with a smile as she reached for her drink. A couple of my cousins laughed. One of them leaned over and tapped her glass against Brianna's. Easy money, he said. Finally got rid of your useless stuff? Brianna added, glancing at me like she was doing me a favor. No one corrected her. No one asked if it was okay. My mom gave that polite half smile she uses when she wants everything to stay calm, even when it should not be calm at all. I set my fork down. What laptop? I asked. She did not even hesitate. The one on your table. The old one. I figured you weren't using it. There was a short pause, the kind where your brain needs one extra second to catch up to what was just said. The one in my apartment? Yeah, she said. Relax, I used your spare key. You gave it to me last year, remember? A couple of heads nodded around the table like that explained everything. And you sold it? I said. She shrugged. I needed cash. And you've got a government job. You can just get another one. Someone across the table let out a small laugh. Another cousin said something about how I probably had 10 of those anyway. I did not look at them. I stayed focused on her. When did you sell it? This morning, she said. Guy picked it up a few hours ago. Cash. Super easy. And you already gave it to him? Yeah, she said, like I was being slow. That's how selling works. More laughter. I let that sit for a second. The laptop she was talking about was not old. It was not spare. And it definitely was not something you just replace. It was sitting on my dining table for a reason. I had been working from home that week under a temporary authorization. The system I was using did not store classified data locally, but it provided secure access into networks that were absolutely not meant to leave controlled environments. Multiple layers of authentication, biometric login, hardware encryption, monitoring built into every inch of it. The kind of device that triggers alerts the second something looks off. I looked back at Brianna. Did you turn it on? I asked. No, she said. I just wiped it down and took pictures. It looked better online. Did the buyer say anything about it? He just asked if it worked. I told him yeah, obviously. Why? I nodded once and looked around the table. The conversation was already drifting. Someone had started talking about a new car. My uncle asked Brianna what else she was planning to sell. My mom reached over to refill someone's plate like nothing had happened. Don't be weird about it, Brianna said, lowering her voice just enough so it sounded like advice. You weren't even using it. I stood up. Where are you going? My mom asked. I need to make a call, I said. Right now? She asked. Can it wait until after dinner? No, I did not explain. There was nothing I could say at that table that would make sense to them without breaking rules I do not break. Brianna rolled her eyes. It's just a laptop. I walked past her without answering and headed for the front door. The air outside was colder than I expected. I did not notice it at first. My brain was already moving through protocol. Time of compromise likely within the last few hours. Unauthorized access confirmed. Device status unknown. Potential exposure unknown. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I do not use unless I have to. It rang once. A voice answered. This is Captain Grant, I said. I need to report a compromised device. There was no small talk, no hesitation. Go ahead. Secondary secure terminal authorized for remote use. Removed from my residence without permission and sold to an unknown buyer. Transaction completed approximately 3 to 4 hours ago. A brief pause. Do you have reason to believe the device has been powered on? Not confirmed, I said. But it's out of my control. Understood. Stay on the line. I could hear movement on the other end. A second voice in the background. Keys tapping. Someone repeating parts of what I had just said. Then the first voice came back. Captain Grant, we're escalating. Do not contact the buyer yourself. Do not discuss this with anyone around you. Are you in a controlled environment? I'm outside my parents' house, I said. Family is inside. Is the individual who took the device present? Yes. Good. We need her to remain there. Do not alert her to the severity of the situation. I glanced back through the front window. Brianna was laughing again, leaning back in her chair like she had just told the best story of the night. Understood, I said. Device tracking is being activated now. We're also flagging the transaction through known channels. Stand by. Another pause. Longer this time. Then the voice shifted. Captain Grant, we may already have visibility on the buyer. That got my attention. Explain. Can't go into detail over the phone. Just stay where you are. We're coordinating with Federal. Federal. Copy. Someone will be in contact shortly. Keep your phone on you. The line went quiet, then disconnected. I stood there for a second, staring at my reflection in the glass. Same face they had seen at that table for years. Same person they had joked about 10 minutes earlier. Inside, nothing had changed. From their perspective, Brianna had sold an old laptop and made $500. That was the whole story. From mine, a secure access point tied to active monitoring systems had just been transferred to someone we did not know, through a channel we did not control, with a timeline we could not rewind. I took a breath. Steady, controlled, the same way I have done in rooms where the stakes were a lot higher than a family dinner. Then I walked back inside. My dad looked up. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, taking my seat again. Just work. He nodded like that explained it. Brianna smirked. Told you, always working. Yeah, I said. Something like that. I picked up my fork and kept eating like nothing had changed. The conversation around the table moved on without me. It always did. Someone brought up interest rates. My uncle started complaining about property taxes. Brianna was already talking about something else, scrolling through her phone like she had not just sold something that did not belong to her. That part was not new. What was new was that I was not trying to explain anything this time. I used to. When I first got assigned to Cyber Command, I made the mistake of thinking my family would care. Not about the details. I knew better than that, but at least about the fact that it mattered. I tried to explain it in simple terms. Threat detection, infrastructure protection, monitoring systems most people never think about unless they fail. My dad had nodded like he understood, then asked if that meant I could fix his Wi-Fi. My mom told people I worked with computers for the Army, like I spent my days resetting passwords. Brianna went one step further. She would laugh and say I was basically IT support with a uniform. That version of me stuck, and after a while I stopped correcting it. It was easier to let them believe I was doing something small than to explain something I could not fully talk about. Clearance does not leave much room for storytelling. So I became the quiet one, the one who showed up to dinner alone, the one who did not have a house yet because I had spent years moving between bases, the one who did not have a relationship to talk about, because most people do not sign up to date someone who disappears for months at a time without explanation. Meanwhile, Brianna built a completely different image. She was outgoing, social, always had something new going on. At least, that is how it looked from the outside. She talked about clients and online sales and branding, but if you listened closely, none of it was stable. It was always the same cycle. New idea, quick excitement, then silence when it did not work. That did not stop anyone from treating her like she was the successful one. She looked the part. Nice clothes, constant updates, always something to show. I did not show anything. At one point, my mom pulled me aside during a family barbecue and said, "You should learn from your sister. She knows how to live a little." I remember looking across the yard at Brianna, laughing with a group of people she barely knew, and thinking about the last time I had slept more than 4 hours straight. "Yeah," I said, "I'll work on that." That was the dynamic. Not aggressive, not loud, just constant. Small comments that stacked over time. You're still renting. You ever think about doing something less stressful? You know, Brianna's friend is looking for someone more outgoing. I answered the same way every time. Short, neutral, not defensive. Because defending myself would have meant explaining my job, and explaining my job was not an option. So I let them fill in the blanks. They assumed I was doing okay but not great, stable but not impressive, smart but not ambitious. No one asked what I actually did on a daily basis. And even if they had, I would not have told them. There are parts of my job that do not exist outside secured rooms, systems that do not get named in public, threats that never make the news because someone stopped them before they became visible. That is the point. If I am doing my job right, nothing happens. No outage, no breach, no headline, just a quiet confirmation that something was handled before anyone noticed. It is not the kind of work that gets applause at a dinner table. Brianna's work, on the other hand, was loud by design. She talked about numbers constantly. Sales, followers, views. It did not matter if they were real or not. The point was that they sounded big, and people respond to that. They always do. There was one dinner a few months back where she spent 20 minutes explaining how she had flipped a batch of electronics she bought online. She threw out numbers that did not quite add up, but nobody questioned it. "See?" my uncle said, pointing at her. "That's initiative." Then he looked at me. "You could do that too, you know, instead of whatever it is you do." I remember nodding and taking a sip of water because, technically, he was right. I could have. I just did not. Not because I could not figure it out, but because I was already responsible for things that did not come with a visible profit margin. Things that did not belong in a conversation about flipping electronics for quick cash. I never said that, though. I never do. Back at the table, Brianna laughed at something on her screen and turned it toward one of our cousins. "Look at this," she said. "Someone just messaged me asking if I had more stuff like that laptop." That got my attention. "More stuff?" my cousin asked. "Yeah," she said. "Apparently there's a market for it. People will buy anything if it looks legit." She said it like she had just discovered a new business model. I watched her for a second. "What did you list it as?" I asked. She did not look up. "Just a standard laptop." Didn't go into details. "Did you include any pictures of the login screen?" "No. Why would I do that?" "Did the buyer ask for anything specific?" She shrugged. "Just if it worked." I said yes. "Did he ask where it came from?" "No. And I didn't ask him anything either. It was cash in and out, done. That part lined up. Quick transaction. No questions. No trace beyond the listing and whatever messages they had exchanged. I leaned back slightly, running through the possibilities. If the device had been powered on, it would have triggered a response. If it had not, then it was still sitting somewhere waiting. Either way, it was no longer in my control. "Why are you asking so many questions?" Brianna said finally, looking at me. "Just trying to understand what you did," I said. She rolled her eyes. "I sold a laptop. You're acting like I committed a crime." No one at the table pushed back on that. To them, she had not. She had taken something that looked unused and turned it into money. In their world, that was not a crime. That was resourceful. I picked up my glass and took a sip. "Do you still have the buyer's info?" I asked. "Maybe," she said. "It's in the messages." "Don't delete anything." She frowned. "Why would I delete it?" "Just don't." She stared at me for a second, trying to decide if I was serious. Then she shrugged. "Fine." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I did not check it right away. I let it vibrate once, then stop. Around me, the conversation kept moving. My dad was asking someone to pass the bread. My mom was talking about a neighbor. Brianna was back on her phone, already distracted by something new. Then I reached into my pocket and glanced at the screen. A message from a number I did not have saved. "Maintain position. Do not alert subject. Team inbound." I locked my phone and slid it back into my pocket. Nothing in my expression changed. Nothing could. Across the table, Brianna was still talking about scaling whatever she thought she had just started. My cousin Jake asked if she was serious about doing more of these sales. "Why not?" she said. "People are dumb. If it looks good, they'll buy it." A couple of them laughed. I did not. I kept my focus on the plate in front of me. But my mind was already somewhere else, going back a few days, replaying everything I had already said, everything I had already warned, because none of this came out of nowhere. 3 days earlier, Brianna had stopped by my apartment unannounced. That was not unusual. She had done it before. She still had the spare key I gave her last year during a deployment cycle. At the time, it made sense. I needed someone local in case something came up. I never took it back. That was on me. I had been in the middle of a work block when I heard the door open. No knock, just the sound of the lock turning, then footsteps inside. "Hello?" she called out, like she owned the place. I stepped out from the dining area. "You could text before coming over." She waved that off. "Relax. I was in the area." She always said that. Her eyes moved around the apartment quickly, scanning like she was checking inventory. "You really live like this?" she asked. "Like what? Minimal?" she said. "It feels temporary." "It is temporary," I said. "Most of my life is." She shrugged and walked past me toward the kitchen, opening the fridge like she had a right to it. I did not stop her. That was the pattern. She crossed a line. I let it go. and we both pretended it was not a problem. On the dining table, my laptop was open, screen locked, external security key still plugged in. Her attention shifted. Immediately. "What's this?" she asked, stepping closer. "Work." She leaned in slightly, reading the surface details without understanding any of it. "It doesn't even look new," she said. "You'd think the army would give you something better. It's not about how it looks." "Clearly," she said. I stepped between her and the table. "Don't touch it." She raised her hands in mock surrender. Okay. I'm serious," I said. "Don't move it. Don't open it. Don't unplug anything." She gave me that look she always did when she thought I was overreacting. "What's it going to do? Explode?" "No," I said, "but it's not yours and it's not something you mess with." She rolled her eyes. "You're always like this. Everything's classified, everything's serious." "That's because it is," I said. She laughed like I had just told a joke. "Sure," she said. "Top secret laptop on your dining table." I did not respond to that. I just repeated it, slower this time. "Don't touch it." She nodded like she understood, but I could already tell she did not take it seriously. That was the real problem. People do not ignore warnings because they do not hear them. They ignore warnings because they do not believe there are consequences. She stayed another 10 minutes, scrolling through her phone, talking about some new opportunity, something about flipping electronics, building a small online store, quick turnaround. I listened just enough to follow it. "You'd be surprised how much people will pay," she said. "Half of them don't even check details." "That doesn't make it a good idea," I said. "It makes it easy," she replied. Before she left, she grabbed her keys off the counter. "I'll let myself out," she said. "You always do," I answered. She smiled like that was a compliment. Then she was gone. I remember standing there for a second, staring at the door after it closed. Something about that interaction stayed with me. Not enough to act on it, but enough that I thought about it later. I considered asking for the key back. I did not. I told myself it was not worth turning into a bigger issue, that it would become another conversation where I would have to explain something she would never take seriously anyway. So I left it alone. That was the last normal moment before everything shifted. Back in the present, at the dinner table, Brianna was finishing a story about how fast the buyer had responded. "Like within minutes," she said. "That never happens unless someone really wants it." "What did his profile look like?" I asked. She glanced at me, annoyed. "Why do you care so much? Just answer the question." She thought for a second. "Basic. No real posts. But that's normal. People use throwaway accounts all the time." That part was true, and it did not make it better. "Did he negotiate the price?" I asked. "No," she said. "I listed it for 500. He agreed right away. No hesitation, no questions." That told me enough. Jake leaned forward. "You should find more stuff like that." "I might," Brianna said. "Apparently there's a market for things that aren't yours?" I asked. She sighed, like I was being difficult. "It was just sitting there," she said again. "You act like I stole something important." I did not answer. Arguing about what counted as important was pointless now. What mattered was already moving. My phone buzzed again. A short vibration under the table. I checked it this time. "Confirm subject still on location. Do not disclose." I glanced up. Brianna was exactly where she had been all night. Relaxed, comfortable, completely unaware of how far this had already gone. "Everything good?" my mom asked, noticing I had gone quiet. "Yeah," I said. "Work again?" my dad added. "Something like that." He shook his head. "They don't give you a break, do they?" I almost smiled at that. If he knew what a break looked like in my line of work, he would not have asked. Across the table, Brianna tapped her phone screen and looked back at me. "You're seriously overreacting," she said. "It's not a big deal." I met her eyes for a second. "No," I said. "It's not." She went back to her phone like that ended it. That was the part that stood out most. Not the fact that she took it, not even that she sold it. It was how normal it felt to her, like she had every right. I leaned back slightly, letting the noise of the table blur into the background. Voices, plates, someone laughing too loud at something that was not that funny. My focus stayed on Brianna. "You said you listed it this morning?" I asked. She did not look up. "Yeah. What time?" She sighed, irritated now. "Why does that matter?" "It matters." She looked at me. "Around 10. Maybe a little after 10 in the morning." That meant the listing had been live for hours. Enough time for it to circulate. Enough time for someone to find it who was not casually browsing. Did you meet him somewhere? I asked. Parking lot near my place, she said. Quick exchange. Cash. Done. Did he check it before paying? She shook her head lightly. Opened it. Saw it turned on. Handed me the money. Turned on. I did not react outwardly. Inside, that detail locked into place. If she powered it on, even briefly, that would have triggered a system response. Maybe not a full alert immediately, but a signal, a ping, enough to flag it if someone was already watching for anomalies. And if the buyer tried anything beyond the basic screen, that would escalate fast. You used it, I said, more to confirm than to accuse. Relax, she said. I didn't break it. That was never the concern. My uncle leaned forward. What kind of laptop was it anyway? Nothing special, Brianna answered for me. Looked like something from 5 years ago. That's still a good flip, Jake added. 500 for something like that. Exactly, Brianna said. People just don't pay attention. She said it like it was a talent, like she had found some shortcut everyone else was too dumb to see. I picked up my glass again, buying myself 1 second to think. Time of listing around 10 in the morning. Sale completed early afternoon. Device powered on at least once. Unknown buyer. Minimal profile. No negotiation. Every piece fit a pattern I had seen before. Not personally. In reports. In case studies. In training briefings. Devices do not end up in the wrong hands by accident. They get there because someone makes it easy. Across the table, my mom smiled at Brianna. Well, I'm glad you got something out of it. Me too, Brianna said. I've got bills. That's just being responsible. My dad nodded. I almost said something then. Not about the laptop, about the logic. But there was no point. From their perspective, the story made sense. She needed money. She found something unused. She sold it. Problem solved. Simple. Clean. Except it was neither. Did you save the listing? I asked. Brianna frowned. Why? Just answer. It's still up, I think, she said. Or maybe marked as sold. I don't know. Don't take it down. She stared at me. I wasn't planning to. Good. Jake leaned back in his chair. You're acting like this is some kind of investigation. I looked at him. It might be. He laughed. For selling a laptop? No one else laughed this time. Not because they understood. Because something in my tone had shifted enough for them to notice. Brianna noticed it too. Seriously, what's your problem? She asked. You've been weird all night. I held her gaze for a second, then looked away. My program setting.